Call to order the work session for the town of New Windsor for August 17th, 2020. First item is approval of July. Well, before I go there, for the record, we do have all 5 council members present. Approval of the July 20th, 2020 work session meeting minutes. They have been corrected, I believe. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Huffman, seconded by Councilwoman Schultz to approve the work session meeting minutes for the July 20th, 2020 meeting. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? So carried 5-0. Social media policy. Kim, if you want to take the lead, or Michelle.
I'll let Michelle take the lead. Since she's the lawyer.
Thanks. Well, as we've talked about briefly before, our social media policy was drafted probably, what did we figure, about 5 years ago. The world has changed and these things are getting more sophisticated. Kim was gracious enough to provide a lot of information. And I thought it was very helpful, especially that piece from the National League of Cities, because it was more specific. You know, this is what you should have as opposed to the more general ones. I don't know whether the council members have had an opportunity to review those things. If I haven't drafted anything more because I haven't gotten any direction as to what should and shouldn't be included. But I do think that ours is lacking in a couple of the ways that the National League of Cities at least recommended. I also went back and looked at our personnel policy, which we just did. And they recommend some things that should go in there insofar as use by employees of both town social media and their own. Now, we are very restricted appropriately as to what we can do with people's private social media accounts, but we can put in that they can't discuss town business. They can't put in anything that might be, you know, confidential. Can't say Joe Blow doesn't pay his water bill, things like that. Not that Joe would ever be dilatory on that, but things like that are not in the personnel policy. And God knows we spent hours and hours, and I don't think that ever even came up. So, so that's, you know, as far as taking the lead, that's the lead. I think there are some good things. There are also some things in what Kim sent about restrictions or advisals for the electeds. And since you guys are the electeds, I don't know how you feel about those things. So I'm gonna kick it back to you all for some discussion and or guidance.
Kim,
Don't
this
all
is
jump
more
in
your
at once.
avenue.
I'm sorry?
I say, Kim, this is more your avenue.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree with Michelle that the information in the one from this National League of Cities I thought was the most helpful, and was there was a little bit in both of the other ones, but not a lot. And I'm going to open here while we're talking. But you know, my recommendation would be that we just, you know, start almost from scratch and draft something based on you know, what's in that particular piece. And I mean, I'd be happy to help Michelle with that, but things have already changed since we did it, you know, and they change every day. And there was just a couple of things going on in the state today that I can't talk about, but, you know, were problems with people in social media. So, you know, I think we need to really stay on top of this. You know, I already brought up the last time in the piece about using it as elected officials. We just have to be careful as elected officials that we don't turn something into a meeting, you know, and that if you're not really paying attention, that could happen. You know, just 3 of us, we're talking about something in the same thread, you know, it's kind of gray. You know, I would just rather not do anything that draws that kind of attention. So, I mean, we could certainly pull some of this and stick it in the policy, but I really think it's more for, you know, that's up to you, Michelle. But to me, it was more for, well, this is something we should all be thinking about, you know, that we have to, when something hasn't been decided about, you know, we should try to sound neutral until a decision is made and
Absolutely.
and like that, you know.
It's always best to err on the side of caution, and especially
Right.
in the modern, extraordinarily litigious world.
Exactly.
And people, you don't even think about this. The social media for many people, not for me, but for many people, is the primary way that they communicate.
Mhm.
And people don't think, and this is not a fault thing, but you don't think, oh, if I say this to two people at the same time, am I running afoul of the open meetings? Or do I really want what I'm about to say to be part of the public record of the town of New Windsor, which is another thing that we need to be on guard about, because if it's your, you know, your town website or your town, whatever, Facebook, etc., those are discoverable under the Public Information Act. And maybe you don't always want what you have to say. This is why I think the phone was invented, but I'm old school.
And I think several of the pieces talk about how it's important to be aware that is part of the public
Yeah.
record when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember how much, I didn't actually go back and look at ours today. I looked at it a couple of weeks ago.
There's very little in there.
Yeah, that's what I
about
thought.
Yeah,
And we have,
looked
and
at it.
in my policy that I wrote for my stuff that I manage in my other job, we make sure that we say that, because people get on there and start talking about, you know, I work for an agency where HIPAA and other confidentiality
Yeah.
applies, and people get on there and start talking about their own personal stuff on, you know, and we're like, you know, so, you know, just something to keep in mind as well.
If there's sentiment among the electeds to just kind of start over, frankly, I think you're right, Kim. It might be just as easy to start over and take some of what we've got and plug it into a new one than it would be to take a whole lot of new stuff and plug it into what we've got. Because then things get disjointed and don't make linear sense. I'm a linear writer. So we can do that. I will tell you, I will not have a draft for the September meeting because the next 2 weeks are kind of crazy, but we can do that and shoot it around and see what people think. Anybody who has any ideas, you know, now's the time.
Michelle, I made some notes and I'll send them to everybody, including
Okay,
you.
great.
Yeah.
Very good.
So real quick, a couple things to clarify. So I read what everything was sent, and I just want to get clarification on it. So the only time that you violate the Open Meetings Act, if let's say 3 of us comment on a post, that could then violate the act, but it has to be issues before the mayor and council. If it's a non-issue before mayor and council, we're free to comment whatever we want, and many people commented on it as they want because therefore it's not a quorum, correct?
This is the lawyer answer, and I apologize in advance. Yes and no. Because potentially an awful lot of things are before the council, even if they're before the council and you don't know it yet. They're going to be before the council in November because somebody's going to bring up an issue, and you or a quorum of you have discussed it in September. So yes, there are any number of things that you all can comment on that aren't public matters. I really am not watching football this year. And if you all talk about that, with the exception, of course, of your husband, Councilwoman, that's one thing. But isn't the election going to be interesting, for example? That is potentially something that isn't going to involve at least a few of the council members and the mayor for next spring. So you just really have to be careful And I think it's unfortunate in a lot of ways that we have to worry so constantly about what we say, but you are elected officials and you do have to be aware of these things. It really depends. It really depends, Councilman Green.
So my next question too is, so how does that work for our email correspondence and text messages? Because I'm pretty sure that's public information as well, right?
It is. It is,
So
exactly.
why are we, I guess my question is, not only should we be looking at it from the social media aspect, but there's no policy in place either for email communications and or text communications.
Well, there's a certain degree of email communication coverage in the personnel policy. But that's what I said. I went back and looked at it today, and I would like to punch that up and be a little more specific, maybe link the two things a little more obviously. Yeah, because text messages, all of those things can also potentially wind up being considered by the Open Meetings Compliance Board, which we never, ever, ever want to be in front of, as a public meeting. A lot depends. If I send you something on Monday, well, not me, but if Kim sends, because I'm looking at Kim, so there you are, your pictures. But if you send something to the council on Monday, and one person replies on Wednesday and two people reply on Saturday, that's far less likely to be considered a violation of the Open Meetings Act. But if you're doing it all fairly contemporaneously, 3 o'clock, 3:15, 3:20, 4:15, then there are opinions from the board, the compliance board, that actually is sufficiently short time and instantaneous that it constitutes a meeting. So there's no one answer, like everything in the law. There's no one answer.
And I have to sit in on those meetings sometimes, and I've heard discussions like this at the state level. So I second what Michelle said. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's unfortunate. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
We have to be very careful. We have to be careful. We have to be careful. It is what, this is the world we live in, and
So when I was reading those documents, I started to jot down some do's and don'ts of using our page. And from what I read through these documents, it said we should use our page to provide information and to promote town activities and events. Okay, that's what our page should be used for. It says we should not conduct any kind of town business on our page, and we should not express opinions on our page. We should refrain from doing that. And on page 3 of that National League of Cities document that we all think is probably the best, it talks about all the posts, the content for those posts, whatever that thing, that should all tie back to our website. And that's where that documents of records should be stored. And I think, although I don't use social media like a lot of you do, I think our official town page, if we stuck to keeping it for promoting information, for providing information to the town, and not trying to resolve issues out there and conducting business, we would stay away from a lot of the things that Michelle is cautioning us about. And I know it's very easy to start all jumping into a conversation online and go that, but I think that's really incumbent upon the elected officials to stay away from doing that.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I think that insofar as that is concerned, conceptually, what you've got in your social media policy right now addresses that somewhat, but I would like to clean that up, make it a little more forceful. And then you folks have to decide some of the issues. For example, the policy right now says that you can't use that no visitor can use the Facebook page to advertise effectively commercial services, and you do allow that. So I'm not suggesting you shouldn't allow that, but the policy and the practice need to match.
Well, one of the things that I think we should consider, and I can send information if you don't know the difference, but I know that Neil and I have talked, the mayor and I have talked about this quite a while ago, And there's advantages and disadvantages to being what we are, which is a group. But some of what was just mentioned by Councilman Hoffman would be avoided if it was a page and not a group, because you can do more restricting of how things are posted. One of the advantages to a group is that it goes to people more readily. If I'm in a group, if you use Facebook, I don't have anything here that I can pick up, but you get a little notification on the bottom on your phone if you're in Facebook that tells you that there's stuff going on in your group and you can click on it. So it's a little bit better for reaching people, because with the Facebook algorithm, the page wouldn't necessarily always show up in people's feed. It would be more something that if people wanted to know what was going on, they would probably have to make an effort to go to our Facebook page. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So, I mean, I can try to find something that sort of does the differences and the pluses and minuses for it to add to the discussion. But we would have more control of it if it was a page versus a group. So,
And
Just the flip side of that. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Green.
I'm sorry, I was actually going to agree with Councilwoman Schultz. I mean, being a group comparable to a page, I mean, we want to use it for informational purposes, promote. To be honest with you, I think it should be a page where we're promoting our local town businesses, but then excluding those who do not operate under the town banner, in a sense, within the town limits. If we're going to do that, I agree. It should be a page linked to our website, comparable to a group, because a group opens you up for a lot more things versus a page. I would agree with that.
But you definitely do get more comments. I am actually in your group, so I read it, and sometimes it amuses, but
sometimes not.
the flip side of limiting it, just playing devil's advocate here, is if what you're trying to do with your Facebook page, for example, is, as the policy says it is, to provide as much information as possible, as quickly as possible, to your town citizens. Again, this is not my my idiom, so I don't know how that works, but I don't know that it works as well as a page.
A group.
There's, as you say, there's good and bad, or whatever, group page.
I mean, you people have to make it will show up in people's news feeds sometimes, but not always, and it shows up more the more you look at anything. Like, I read the Washington Post online, so the Washington Post is always in my news feed because they know I'm reading it, but I have a cousin, I never look at her stuff because I don't. So if I want to see what's going on with her babies, I have to go out of my way. So that's kind of so if people want to know, are we having bulk trash, or if they want to know, are the streets closed because of snow, all they have to do is go to the page. It's not like you can't get to it, but you can't willy-nilly say, my whatever service, which isn't, like Councilman Green said, isn't even in New Windsor, you can't put that on there. People can still comment, people can still message, that kind of thing, and ask questions. But
okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
Can someone say why wasn't there trash pickup Monday, or will there be bulk trash next month, or things like that? So if you structure it as, which was a group or a page, whichever one you think is better.
Page. You can just comment, or you can send somebody a message. One of the things that you could do, because I manage a government page, is you could set up to post every single, like you could schedule, you can do this on the group too, but you could schedule 5 or 6 posts that would be like, post every single week to remind people of something important, which would give people more chances to comment, like, what's the agenda for the town council meeting, or, how are you going to handle bulk trash with social distancing or whatever. So, there's ways to make it so it's more in people's faces than just a plain page might be. And I just think as somebody who manages a government page every day, I just think it gives you more control of the page. Mayor Roop and I spend a lot of time getting stuff off that page that doesn't belong on there. And people wouldn't be able to put it on there if it was a page, because it's a group, they can't.
And in factuality, we know we have our official town group, and then you have the unofficial New Windsor Residents United Together group, which is a very large contingent of our constituents. If it's a matter of something happening, I know I'm a member of it. I know there's several other people that are a member of it. You share it there, and it's reaching everybody. Or something we can talk about down the road on our website. Maybe we can talk with Info's Pathways or whoever's going to have our IT services. Maybe a text-in option to where if there's something going on in the town, like snow removal or emergency snow policy in effect or flash flood warnings, they can sign in for a text-in option. When something alarm goes off, they get a text saying, hey, just to let you know, please have your cars off the street because snow emergencies in effect. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do right from our webpage itself. So maybe we need to explore those options as well.
Councilman Green, I think that's a really good idea. And as you know, the state has a system on every state website where people can sign up to get, almost every state website where you can sign up to get alerts. So for instance, when it snows, or even last week with I think it was the hurricane, some counties in the state offices were closed, and I get a notice first thing in the morning. So I don't know, what service we would do as a town, but that would certainly be a good way to reach people with important information.
So where do we go from here, boys?
Oh, sounds like you get direction to start a new policy.
All right.
Let me just share two comments here. One is, and this kind of piggybacks on what Councilman Green just shared, that I wonder if we need to step back and take a look at our methods of communication with members of citizens in the town. I don't do Facebook. I think I have an account, but I don't know how to turn it on or get into it or look at it. But, so that's about how connected I am. Maybe Councilman Huffman and I are about the same page on that. But anyway, be very intentional about what is currently the best way, whether it's sending text messages, whether it's Facebook postings, whether it's something else. I've heard several times that all of these platforms come and go, and they can come and go pretty quickly. And it's kind of hard to keep track of what's going on. The second, so I guess what I'd say is let's step back and explore and determine what is the best way for us to be in communication. The second thing is that, and this has to do with writing a policy, and particularly for those of us that don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, I guess I'm a little safer than some others in that I probably won't accidentally get involved in areas that I shouldn't be. But there are other avenues or ways that we can get in trouble with Opens Meetings Acts and Public Records Acts and all those kinds of things. And so, yes, we could write a policy, but I think we've got to have bullet points put in front of us pretty regularly, and things kind of called on us. When we were talking about what constitutes a meeting, and Michelle, you were talking about some dialogue happening in pretty rapid succession. So if the mayor posts something, says, I've ordered 10 banners, do you want them green or blue? And he wants a response back from all of us within a day. Does that constitute a meeting? You're shaking your head, yes. So we just need to be careful of those kinds of things. So those kinds of things, while it's certainly convenient to shoot an email out to everybody and get a response back so that he can go ahead and get the order placed, it's got to wait for a meeting or an official meeting so that it can be part of the record and that everybody else can be present. So that's just saying that we need to have this stuff put in front of us, particularly those kinds of things that we might have violated in the past unknowingly, and just knowing how to be careful about making sure we're in compliance with everything.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, everyone. And I have a meeting with the mayors next week. And I'll see what all they do with Facebook and their website and get information out. So maybe somebody's doing something that we're not thinking of, or just doing a little bit better than what we are. So
Yeah,
appreciate
Mayor
everybody.
Mayor will make sure, ask him if anybody's got any kind of text alert system that they can let us know about, because I kind of coming back to what Councilman Paulsgrove just said, when you say, how should we communicate? One of the things that people who are in communications are, which is what I do, is you should communicate every way you can.
Right.
Yeah, there's not one right way because people are using different things. But texting is, my 80-year-old mother texts all the time. I mean, people, that's something that if we can find a way to do that, that would be great.
All righty. All right. Thank you, everybody. Reinvestment of Lagoon Fund CD. Looks like basically what we did the other meeting. Deposit with New Windsor State Bank to reinvest it with the New Windsor State, NWSB Bank for 8 months.
Yeah, that comes due, the Lagoon Fund CD comes due August 23rd. So Treasurer Alvin and myself wish to get council approval to reinvest the certificate of deposit with Windsor State Bank for 8 months, similar to what we did at the August 5th council meeting for the enterprise fund, the 2 enterprise fund CDs.
Do I hear a motion?
What's the interest rate on that?
The one we did for the 2 enterprise fund CDs at the August 5th was 0.75. Donna had a call into the bank, but hadn't heard back if that rate still applies. It's probably close to that, if not, but I'm waiting for final number on that. That's a pretty good rate considering some of the other things we checked into.
Ed, you got a question there?
Well, I'm just kind of questioning how liquid we need this to be and whether or not there are some other options that we might consider that might get us a better return.
Well, we're only looking to do it for an 8-month. That's about the minimum time frame you can do a CD, I believe.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking is there a possibility that we could commit to tying those funds up for a longer period of time if that got us a better interest rate? Or is there something other than CDs that we might be looking at?
I might ask Donna to chime in on that, see if she knows anything different, different options, or we can certainly look into that. It's certainly an option.
We are limited as a municipality as to how we can invest. And CDs are the major investment, or a money market is about the only liquid option we would have. And I will pull up the investment policy that we have with the town and double check on that and send it to everybody.
I guess I'd ask the question, have we ever put any funds in money markets?
Yes.
Do we know what our track record has been with that?
They're paying less than what we would get in the CD right now. What do you mean by track record?
Well, just whether or not we get a better return than we would with CDs.
No, not currently.
So basically our hands are kind of tied, and I mean, we can't get aggressive or risky or
No.
anything.
Nope, not with taxpayers'
You
money.
can't do mutual funds. You can't do anything like that.
Okay.
So do you hear a motion to reinvest it?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Paulsgrove, second by Councilman Green, to reinvest the CD at NWSB Bank for 8 months. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand, brother. Those opposed, all 5 hands are raised. Use of enterprise funds. Gary, Donna?
Yeah, I'll start off and then Donna can chime in if need be. So Donna and I have been discussing this topic, specifically how the town should spend enterprise fund money. The enterprise revenues consist of developer-related fees as follows. You have your water area connection charge, which is that money is put into it goes into the enterprise fund in a separate checking account and CD, two different versions there. Same thing with the sewer area connection charge. Enterprise fund into a separate checking account and CD. Then you also have water meters and radio reads, which stays in the enterprise operations. And then you have three fees that stay in general fund. They're impact fees, administrative fees, and permit fees. They stay in the general fund. So these charges are all assessed with each building permit and moved to the various accounts as noted by Donna. The major revenue generators of those, 6 or 7 fees are the water and sewer area connection charges, which are currently, the water charge is currently $9,375 and the sewer is $7,617. That's per EDU or new home, basically. So currently these revenues are being collected, but not being spent. And we have significant amounts in both the checking and the CD accounts. So Donna and I wanted to bring this topic up for discussion and get the council permission to use these enterprise funds, specifically the water and sewer area connection money, for specific water and sewer related projects. For example, fixing and making the repairs on the water main leak at Main and High Street, repairs at Main Spring Well, which I'll be talking about later tonight, and Blue Ridge Pump Station upgrade, which I'll be talking about later tonight. Those are some examples of things that we have currently going on that we would like okay to use the enterprise fund money for. Donna, did I miss anything?
You're muted, Donna.
No, you covered it all, Gary.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments, or somebody's got a question or two?
Well, going forward, Gary, do you have a capital budget spreadsheet 5-10 years out of all of our projects?
We have not 10, but we look at like a 5-year outlay on capital projects for both general fund and enterprise fund.
Now, I know originally before you came on board, Frank had a spreadsheet like 100 other spreadsheets probably, but he had one, and I don't know how outdated it might be, but I think his philosophy was 50% of these new revenues to go to capital projects and basically 50% to the 3 Rs. So I don't know if you want to come up with something a little more concrete that everybody can see what kind of numbers those are, but we got a $3.5 million water line replacement, and I think his original capital project included at that time we said it was a 5-mile raw water line, but I think it's like 3.5 miles now after they surveyed it and everything. And then now coming on board is a $1 to $1.5 million upgrade if we go that direction with the wastewater treatment plant to ENR. And then we have all of our other projects with the I&I issues and everything else. So I didn't know whether that would be easier for everyone to take a look at and be able to see what kind of money is going into those two line items. I know our 3 Rs, we only have $35,000 in each one, and that doesn't go very far. And I'm not sure why we did that. I mean, I know it was nice to have extra money for the 3 Rs, but I imagine those 3 Rs every year exceed that amount anyway.
Yeah, I think we, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we upped the 3R money this year for FY21.
I'd have to pull the budget up.
Yeah, I don't remember the number. It's still not anything real significant, but I think we upped it. So you're looking for a list of all the water and sewer projects that we have?
Yeah, then whether it's 50%, whether we think we ought to jump that 50% up to 75% with, the projects that we have, or, I think everybody ought to have a little bit more input than just, let's take a little bit of money here and pay for these three line items. I mean, they need to be done, and I'm sure the council will approve them. And the money's there, but I think we need a little more direction of what percentage of each hookup or each house that comes on, where that goes. I think it would just be easier accounting. To me, it would be easier accounting, maybe not to Donna, but it would be to me that you could project a little bit better.
Well, right now, 100% of it is going into a separate account.
Right.
So it's Gary and I would have to sit down and really crunch some numbers to do what you wanted to do.
Well, if you take if you do 50%, I'm not sure what crunching you have to do.
But we don't know if 50% is the ideal thing, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, but I think we should know.
Well,
Instead of just putting it in one lump sum.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that I don't believe that we had considered that before. So we'll have to sit down and work that out.
Frank had, I know there's a spreadsheet there, so.
Well, that may be, but he's not here anymore.
No, I know he's not, but I'm saying it was. It might be something it might be something you can look at and go from there too, instead of starting from scratch.
Okay.
My take on all this is that we might have funds in different categories, or we might call it reserves or capital or repairs or whatever. But the bottom line is, as long as the funds are spent for water and sewer items, whether they're capital or repairs, I don't think there's a problem in terms of our being fiduciaries with the monies that we're receiving. I think we've done a pretty good job of making sure we're splitting out enterprise fund expenses and general expenses, and particularly in the last several years, the way we've adjusted salaries and all the packages that go along with that, and making sure that we're allocating the hours that our town staff, make sure we're allocating it to the right places. So I wouldn't have a problem taking the money from wherever, as long as we're making sure that enterprise money is going enterprise and general is going general.
Well, I think we are. I mean, I think all of our expenses are being paid out of the enterprise fund for water and sewer.
I'm just
I don't
saying,
think that's the issue.
I'm just saying we can get caught up in maybe unnecessary record keeping or whatever if we try to designate particular funds only for a certain purpose. And the bottom line is, we need to provide the services to the town, whether we have to repair, whether we call it a repair or a capital. I guess I don't get too hung up on what accounts we keep it in or what it's used for. So I guess, Gary, to answer your question, you need some money freed up to finish, to take care of some projects, right?
Correct. The projects that we know, in addition to the projects that the mayor mentioned, I mean, there are projects that are out there on the horizon too. The three that I mentioned specifically are on the very near horizon this year or in the next, possibly the next week or two. The water main leak we're gonna be doing before winter sets in, so we don't have icing issues. The mainspring well that I'm gonna be talking about is something that needs done now. And the Blue Ridge pump station upgrade it needs done. Now there's a process, there's slight differences with each one of those, even though they are all water and sewer projects. And in my opinion, I agree with what Ed said, that as long as we as a municipality use enterprise fund money for water and sewer related issues, personally, I don't get hung up with whether it's a planned capital project or it's an emergency water and sewer, or it's a planned upgrade to a pump station or whatever. But yeah, that's right. Donna, question for you. When we collect the water and sewer area connection charges, we talked about it today. We just got four, I think, of the last four from the reserves in. When we collect that money, that's going into two different accounts right now or one? I thought it was two.
Going into one checking account
Put into one checking account.
for the enterprise side.
Right.
Then the general fund money gets put in the general fund, those fees.
Okay. And then the CD portion of that account is something that the council decided to take X amount out of that checking account and invest in a CD, correct?
Right.
Okay. So right now, everything goes into the checking account for the water and sewer area connection.
That's correct.
Okay.
Hey, Gary, I have a question.
Sure.
Out of those few projects you were just discussing, and I think what would be helpful, like, and I'm sure you'll probably go over it tonight, but like prioritize what needs to be done now, or could wait X amount of time to X amount of time, and how much of the funds that we currently have can complete. Let's just say you have 3 priority 1 projects that need to get done before winter, right?
Right.
How much of those funds can actually complete those projects and have it done in a timely manner? Is that something we could get?
Well, I have the two that we're going to be talking about here on the agenda, the mainspring well and the preliminary design of Blue Ridge pump station. So again, they're slightly different in that the Blue Ridge pump station, we're going to have engineering plans done and looked at by GMB, and that's what I'm going to have before you is request approval to do that first preliminary engineering design. The mainspring well is a little different. We're not going to get involved with an engineer design per se, but we've met with Mid-Atlantic and we're looking at solutions to the issues that we're experiencing out there. So, and then of course the water line, we know we got some idea what that's going to cost. We're going to have to be putting in valves, and yeah, we know pretty much the cost for at least the first parts of those projects. Like I said, the Blue Ridge is more of you're going to have preliminary design, you're going to have final design and plans, and then it's going to go out to bid and it's going to get constructed. Whereas the Bower Sox is going to be, it's going to be kind of an initial week and a half from Mid-Atlantic to get in there and do the work that needs to be done. The water line's kind of the same thing with, probably a week or so to get in and take care of that issue. So, but I mean, we can I can definitely get a list of things just to get in front of you to see, to let you all see what is there both on the, in the short term and then, longer term, and kind of prioritize, things that way as well. I mean, the water line in town, the water replacement in town, which ahead of the streetscape, obviously that has a different priority than the remaining 3.5 miles. The remaining 3.5 miles of water line are still in the out years and in a plan to do. But again, it's just, there's different, I guess, like you say, priorities in turn and planning to look at with these different projects. So
Gary, let me ask you, your original question, let me see if I can get back to that. You need to know what funds are available to staff in order to complete projects. Are you feeling like your hands are tied or you don't know where it's permissible for you to take funds, or restate your question?
Well, I don't think it's that our hands are tied, but I guess it's my understanding that and Donna can correct me here, but we're not using those area connection fund monies now. Is that correct, Donna?
Yeah.
So my philosophy is, if we have these immediate projects that are water and sewer related, are we okay to use that money to do these projects, or do we need to use specifically 3Rs or some other, some other source? I mean, again, to me, it's all enterprise fund money. So
again, I wouldn't get too concerned where it comes, which pocket it comes from. If you need it, it's there to be used.
And I would actually agree with Ed Pellsgrove and Gary in this, and that's why I'm asking for, like, what is the priority project wise, because I know we have the base charges that come in that we set aside for funds if need be. If we have priority projects that need to get done and we have the funds to do it, I kind of would defer to Gary to give us that information. But I mean, I think if we have water and sewer needs and we have the funding coming from water and sewer, I think we should use it for those projects.
So I'm not disagreeing with the three of you, but I personally like to have it a little more granular. That I like to know, if we know we have X amount of funds coming in from connection fees, we should have thought about where that money should go. There should be some specific buckets that money is put into for some of our long-term projects or 3Rs, whatever. That would help us plan in the future. If we're just dumping into a bucket and we have tons and tons of repairs, we may never have any money put away for some of our long-term projects. And yes, we may have to borrow from that bucket, because yes, I understand it's all in the enterprise fund. But for planning purposes, I think it would help us if we knew that X% of connection fees go in this bucket and X% go in this bucket. At least for planning purposes, we could project where we should be after X amount of months. And I think that would help us in the long run. Again, I understand we have projects that need to be done, and sometimes that takes precedence and we may have to move money around to fund those. But I think for planning purposes, at least in my opinion, it helps to have it a little more granular.
okay.
Okay,
You good, Donna?
Sure.
all right, number 5, proposal
Okay.
for Blue Ridge Pump Station upgrade design.
Okay, so am I still on? Yeah. This project was discussed at the July 20th work session meeting and again at the August 5th council meeting. As discussed at the August council meeting, myself and Wayne, Director of Public Works, Director Myers, met GMB engineers on site on July 28th, and we looked at our needs, our options, a plan moving forward, and requested GMB provide a preliminary engineering report, basically a preliminary engineering design report. So GMB submitted that PER on August 11th, and their proposal is $23,500. And the PER, again, that's preliminary engineering report, which is basically a preliminary engineering design. It includes a topographic survey, site investigation, and then preparation of the PER includes various things such as hydraulic analysis of the system, analysis of required wet well size, verification of new equipment, evaluating alternatives for pump replacement, and description of proposed site improvements. The design will be based on the Gorman-Rupp pumps, which is what we have in there now that are coming up 30 years old. They're a good pump system, but also look at other pump alternatives as well. The PER will include a summary, site of the proposed improvements, cost estimate, meeting minutes, and design calculations. And then lastly, they'll also take a look at the hydraulic analysis of the force main based on as-built drawings and Manning's formula calculations. So again, the initial preliminary design phase will be followed by another final design phase, which GMB will submit a separate proposal for that. So the first part, like I said, is the approval of GMB's proposal for engineering services, preliminary engineering report for the Blue Ridge sewage pump station upgrade for a not to exceed total fee of $23,500.
Questions, anybody? We know we have to do it. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion that we move ahead with GMB for the preliminary design at $23,500.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Paulsgrove, second by Councilman Smith, to approve the preliminary engineering report for Blue Ridge sewage pump station not to exceed $23,500. Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by raise your hand. Those opposed? Councilman Paulsgrove, I didn't see yours. You're on mute. Councilman Paulsgrove, you're on mute.
We can't hear
You're on mute. Are you in favor? All right. 5-0. It passes. All right. 6, preliminary engineering report for wastewater treatment plant update.
Okay, so this is more of an update. We at the July 20th work session, Bryce Foxwell of engineering firm GMB presented an overview for everyone on the process to upgrade the Windsor wastewater treatment plant to ENR, enhanced nutrient removal, and funding available through Maryland Department of Environment and Bay Restoration Fund. A lot of acronyms in there, ENR, BRF. I try to spell them all out for you. The council unanimously approved moving forward with the preliminary environmental report. On August 13th, GMB submitted their proposal for the PER in the amount of $30,610. In summary, the PER will include project planning, evaluation of existing facilities, establish the need for the project, evaluating the existing facilities. Develop and evaluate alternatives, select an alternative based on life cycle cost and non-monetary factors. Development of the proposed project, make a recommendation, and develop plans for fiscal sustainability of the recommended projects. So I just wanted to basically give you an update on that, where we are. I'll issue a notice to proceed. I just, like I said, just got this PER, read through it in detail. Everything looks in line. And one of the first steps, we'll have a kickoff meeting with GMB in the town, and followed by a meeting with MDE to discuss the project before we start the working on the actual PER tasks. So, like I said, basically just an update on where we are with that.
All righty.
on that one.
And Gary, just to clarify, that cost is 100% covered as long as the town is in agreement that eventually in the future, if not now, we would proceed with the
Yes, that's correct. This process will take about a year roughly to get to that point. And that's accounting for just, everything, the GMB to do their thing, us to review it, then it goes to MDE. You have to have a lot of time there to allow it back and forth. But we get to a certain point and the PER will be done. The recommendations will be there. The cost benefit analysis will be there. And then the town will have to make a decision of, do we move forward with this and take advantage of the funding through the Bay Restoration Fund or not. And either way, the cost for the PER is covered. So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Our Sox mainspring well repairs.
All right, last one. Last one on my list. So, Public Works Director Myers has been monitoring some ongoing problems with the mainspring well at Bower Sox Road Town Farm. On August 11th, Wayne and I met with Mid-Atlantic on site to discuss a plan to remediate the problems we were experiencing with mainspring well. On August 13th, Mid-Atlantic submitted a proposal for $21,910 for the water system repairs and improvements to the Bower Sox Road mainspring well. There's actually the proposal's broken down into 3 parts. The one is to furnish and install a 6-inch PVC drain line for a lump sum price of $6,825. Furnish and install a 4-inch discharge line for a lump sum price of $7,700. And then furnish and install a 4-inch emergency pump connection for a lump sum price of $7,385. We can do these individually. If we choose to go that route, I recommend that we do all 3. Take advantage of Mid-Atlantic mobilizing and being on site and getting all 3 of the projects done. They're all kind of interrelated and need to be done. So that's my recommendation to the council, is to approve all 3 parts of the water system repairs and improvements to mainspring well in the amount of $21,910. This is something that Mid-Atlantic can mobilize and do here either soon, the end of this week, beginning of next week kind of time frame.
What's the status with the, then we have to address the lid or not?
Yes, we MDE did an inspection. They do inspections, I think, every 3 years, I believe, and noted some deficiencies in the basically in the water tightness of that existing lid. It's not. I don't know if you've ever seen, if any of the council has seen that well in person. It's not something. It's not a standard type of well setup out there. The Public Works guys addressed on their own some of the work on that lid and basically did an interim repair and sealing on that system. We've also have gotten some prices from, I think, two different contractors to replace that lid with a new, obviously watertight lid, but we've kind of put that on hold for now to deal with the internal hydraulic issues we're having with it, the well now. So yeah, that's still in the works, but we feel that the hydraulic issues we have going on now are a higher priority than the lid. The lid's been fixed temporarily for now.
Can you just briefly explain what all this will eventually do when it's all said and done? Just for my own information, if nothing else.
Sure. So, and Wayne might have to chime in and correct me here, but basically you have a natural well condition out there, okay? I don't know exactly when the well was put in, but initially when the pump went in, prior to the pump going in, we were getting about 45 to 50 gallons per minute from that. Several years back, we installed a pump, an underground underwater pump to increase the production in terms of volume, which bumped us up to basically, I think it pumps us up to about 250 gallons per minute. So a lot of that system out there, once it comes out of the ground to a certain point into town, it flows by gravity. Okay, so the pump basically just supercharges the capacity of the well production, water production. So what we don't know exactly what's going on under the ground around it. We believe we're pretty sure there's some piping that runs bypass piping around from the pump. And we think that the connection from that pump to the main line has a crack or separation in it. And it's causing a lot of the water to, instead of going down the line to town, it's causing it to blow back into the well box. We're not losing the water per se. It's not getting out onto the ground, but it's basically recycling, and the pump's working a lot longer, a lot harder than it should be. It should kick on. It should pump in to the line and go down the line, and then it turns off. It's on a cycle. So right now, when that kicks on, we're getting basically backwash or splash in the direction back towards the vault, the vault over top of the well. So these improvements will alleviate that, fix that connection, stop the backflow of the water into the vault, help the pump to run on more of a regular cycle basis. And then the other two parts of that, the 6-inch PVC drain line is an existing line that's an overflow line that feeds out to the stream. That line we found it eventually. It's clogged up and not working, so we want to basically install a new overflow with a backflow preventer on that. And then the 4-inch emergency pump connection is something that would be really beneficial and needed in the event that we have to come up out there and set up a pump and bypass the pump underground, so we can continue to have flow operations very easy with a quick connect system. So that's kind of the three parts of that project.
Very helpful. Thank you. Comments, questions, motion?
Since it's water and sewer, I will make a motion that we authorize that expenditure.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Paulsgrove, seconded by Councilman Green, to approve $21,910 to Mid-Atlantic Utilities for those three items listed. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Let me just state that Public Works Director Wayne Myers, his input on this and how we're going about it is invaluable, in that particularly with this bypass connection, this is our single major source of water coming into town. We do not have a backup pump. We do not have a generator out there. So if we lose this source, the assumption is that at some point we will have that, either a backup pump or a generator. But in the meantime, if we do lose this source, just having this one connection in there will make it a lot easier to bring in a temporary pump or a generator if that's needed, and get us going again. So thanks, Wayne, for looking out for us in that regard.
All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. All 5 hands are raised. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Also with that, whether or not Mike could look into a FEMA grant maybe for a emergency generator. since that is a crucial infrastructure for the town.
I believe Mike is already looking into that.
Very good. Very good.
Grants for, he's looking for grants for actually two, a generator there and then another location as well.
Very good.
I'll follow up with him. He's in tomorrow and Wednesday with us, so I'll follow up with Mike.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody have anything?
Neil,
Nope.
did they get enough volunteers for the ice cream event?
Yeah, they got a ton of volunteers.
Okay,
They
good.
just sent out a, Mark's listed on there, I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
But they sent out a list today of the jobs that we're supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be greeting the cow, whatever that means. So I will greet the cow for the first time tomorrow night.
And I just wanted to say real quick, I apologize for the late posting of the event, but we didn't get that from the county census coordinator until I think she sent it to me at 3:30 on Friday and asked me to send it out to you all or to my email, links or groups and to post it on the website. And I had already gone for the day and couldn't really get to it till today. And so we got it on there, but it wasn't until it was kind of late. So
I posted it last week on Facebook,
okay, good.
whether or not I'm supposed to now. But it's I think hopefully it'll be a good crowd, but all laughing aside, we really need to push our numbers up. We are we did go past Union Bridge. However, if you do any research, every other municipality is above their 2010 final numbers percentage wise. We're the only municipality that hasn't hit our 2010 percentage response rate. So this could be huge for us, whether it's directly or through grants that we apply for on a regular basis. If the state's not getting that money, we're not going to get it either. So I do feel that, just like this CARES Act or what is it? The one they're down in DC right now, going back and forth and can't decide on the municipality supplemental grants and everything. But we were targeted about 2 months ago to get $400-some thousand, and that was based on the 2010 numbers. And that could be directly affecting us if we don't have some really good numbers. We may not get our fair share if there's funding out there in disasters or anything else. So we really need to push this, not just tomorrow night, but until September 30th, I think now, right, Gary?
So yeah, they bumped it from October 30th or 31st up to September 30th.
Right.
Forward.
So, we really need to get our numbers up. We're at 62% or something response rate, but Mount Airy's, I think, is in the upper 80s. And, we just need to do our share. So, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Schultz, second by Councilman Huffman to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. All 5 are raised. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. See you tomorrow night eating ice cream.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, all.